Welcome to The Money Hour with host Tina Mitchell and co-host Keelan Harvey. Tina Mitchell, MLO 145420, and Keelan Harvey, MLO 1330075, are licensed loan originators with Gateway Mortgage Group, LLC, and MLS 7233. The views expressed by the speakers on the following program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Gateway Mortgage Group, LLC, nor are they necessarily endorsed by Gateway Mortgage Group, LLC. Now, in the studio, local mortgage experts Tina Mitchell and Keelan Harvey.
Welcome to the Money Hour at 11:50 a.m. KKNW, the Saturday, July 13th show. I am your host, Tina Mitchell.
And I'm your co-host, Keelan Harvey.
Bringing in expert advice and inside knowledge on today's events and how they will affect your economy. If you're hearing our show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast, but we're here to answer any questions or connect you with the guests that we have on the show. Please call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And our guest in studio, our lineup for today, it's kind of a special day. Number one, it's Girls and Keelan. So
is that new?
I like that, the Girls and Keelan. And also, we've got a bunch of coaches in here today, and I want to make a shout out for this because when you're a coach and you have a very specific message that you coach around, it's really powerful. And there's always somebody that needs that specific message. So I want you to listen to our guest really carefully and in tune to the message that they have to share with you today, because I'm sure that something that you might need might be here right in studio. So here's our lineup. We have Rae Ann Hall of Forward Principles. Magnetism of mind shifts and mindset in creating better results. Also in studio, we have Marcel Allen of Dreamosity, how creatively it can improve your relationship with money. And our last guest in studio is Dee Gupta of D Coaching. Are you ready to be in a relationship? Great information, great guest in studio. Again, it's the girls with a little Keelan. For more information, please call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And as we start out each week, we'll start out with a little bit of money chat.
Money.
So Keelan and I were talking before the show, and I said to Keelan, well, Keelan, I always have you start with money chat, but then I was kind of thinking, do I occasionally just shout out my own and then have you start out? I was just questioning what I just said to you.
Lately, it's been me first.
Okay, all righty. Well, let's go with you first then.
All right.
What do you got today for
script.
money chat?
Well, I've been kind of intrigued, as you know. I want to talk about, and because employment is very important, and we've been talking about the transit system a little bit, and it's really interesting that the developments are going on, and I've kind of focused on the north and the east side of the lake, because we're on the east side in Bellevue, and, with all the businesses. But I was checking out the plans on the transit, and it was just announced that Sound Transit's going to receive a $100 million grant this year from the U.S. Department of Transportation. And it's going to help an extension of light rail through SeaTac and then through Kent and Federal Way. So not only is this light rail going all the way up to Everett and down, there's a Ballard extension that's going to go, a West Seattle extension. I lived in West Seattle, and it was terrible to get off. It's like an island because you have the West Seattle Bridge. Yeah. And that's it. You can't get off. And if somebody gets pulled over on that or there's an accident,
you are just dead on the road.
It's done. You have nowhere to go because everybody else will go under the bridge or over. So that's insane. But for our South love, too, is really going to be interesting, because now our geography that's so spread out has now, and our problem now is affordability, right, with houses and people having to commute long ways. So now, this, all this boom that's happening, people are going to be able to really feasibly...
They'll be able to buy in the South End and still be able to commute reasonably.
They will. And, it'll reduce traffic. People are going to choose to take that because it's quicker. I heard the Everett to Seattle is going to be like 30 minutes or something of that nature.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's a game changer.
It is a game changer.
What would it take you now? In traffic, maybe an hour and a half, something of that nature. So just a game changer on what's happening. And this, by all means, is going to affect real estate. It's going to affect affordability. And it's happening pretty quickly. You can already see, and this is kind of where I got on this path, commuting to work. seeing all like the new light rail thing on I-90. I mean, that looks like darn near done.
Yeah.
520. It's just everywhere and surrounding us. And to see the Seattle grow up with our density and figuring a way and a solution, and then to get federal grants for it is really huge. So, I mean, as far as investing in real estate and all that, and a lot of people talk about follow transit around there, investment properties and such. Because that's going to be some density around those things. And if you look at cities like East Coast that are bigger and already more mature than we are, there is a crazy boom in those little neighborhoods where nothing existed before.
Well, and that is really great. We do need to get Sound Transit back in studio because we've had them represent kind of what's going on and just always bring great information in. And I was actually going to talk about if you're an investor and you want to look at possibly buying zero down an investment property. That's what I was going to talk about. But I'm going to change my mind. So if you want to know about that, call or tune in next week because I'm going to bring that in because, yes, you can buy with possibly zero down for an investor. But you inspired me to kind of shift in. I want to mention a couple things here. But first of all, I want to mention that, change is really great. And I'm actually really excited. I heard Property Casualty, a friend of mine, talk about a big conference that they had went to and the changes that are happening and kind of there's some in preparing for how is it going to affect the property casualty insurance and their business when this comes is we've all heard about the electrical cars, but here's what's going to happen is our children's children will never get a driver's license because the cars are going to be driving themselves. Now, I'm excited for that because here's what I visualize. There's really minimal accidents. There's minimal traffic. All that's going to be gone mostly because there's no people behind it and all of the stuff that we do that distract to make those things happen. Also, whether you have a half an hour commute or an hour commute, it doesn't matter because you'll be able to work on your computer as the car just drives you wherever you're going. So I'm excited about that. So we're talking about change and so there's some great things that will continue to come up that will help everything in our market and real estate and all of that good stuff. I want to give one more shout out, and this was actually a conversation I just had with Keelan before we headed into studio. Right now, interest rates are almost at a historical low. We haven't hit a historical low, but it definitely is the biggest decrease in interest rates that we have seen in this period of time, which I brought into Money Chat before. So what's coming on is a lot of broker companies that are going out there and mass telemarketing for your business, which is okay, but you as a consumer need to be aware of what's happening. And they are sending out mailers that look like it's officially coming from HUD, which it's not. They're sending out these things that are being a little deceiving in what you can do. So my shout out to you is if you're getting something, if you have a question, call an expert like Keelan and myself that are in the mortgage industry. There's a lot of great opportunities out there. Yes, you can refinance with no closing costs. You're choosing to take a higher rate to offset those costs. Yes, you can get money back at closing depending on the loan. All of these things, it's just how it's worded and how it's described may not actually be how it comes out. So we're here to be a resource for you. And that is our Money Chat for today. Coming up next on the Money Hour, magnetism of mind shifts and mindset in creating better results. Rae Ann Hall of Forward Principles right here on 1150 AM KKNW after this short break.
Are you feeling stuck or experiencing setbacks in life and business? Do you feel overwhelmed and stressed? Are you ready to break through and step up in life? It's time for your true confidence to shine through. Rae Ann Hall of Forward Principles helps individuals get out of their own way, uncovering limiting beliefs and embracing the warrior within. Rae Ann created the Results Cycle and Mindset Manager, which are effective tools for personal growth. She motivates and teaches techniques that invoke better feelings, which propel our actions and create better results through intentional thinking. Rae Ann Hall of Forward Principles can help you be more effective in your day-to-day actions towards achieving your dreams and experiencing true fulfillment.
Hi, I'm Rae Ann Hall, founder of Forward Principles. To get a complimentary 15 minutes of mindset coaching with me, call me at 425-218-8277 or reach me online at forwardprinciples.com.
You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, and co-host Keelan Harvey, on Alternative Talk AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage experts Tina Mitchell and Keelan Harvey.
Welcome back to the Money Hour on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, July 13th show. I am your host, Tina Mitchell.
And I'm your co-host, Keelan Harvey.
It is a great day to talk about money, and that's what the show is all about. How to make money, how to save money so that you can have a better quality of life for you and your family. If you're hearing our show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast, but we're here to answer any questions or connect you with the guests that we have on the show. Please call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. In studio right now, very excited to have a conversation with Rae Ann Hall of Forward Principles. Magnetism of mind shifts and mindset in creating better results. Rae Ann, thank you so much for joining us in studio today.
Oh, I just want to thank you so much for the opportunity. First time, but I'm so grateful to be here.
You are going to rock it, girlfriend.
Thank you.
And a little bit about Rae Ann. Rae Ann Hall is a certified mindset coach and founder of Now Networking since 2016. She has been helping young women overcome adversity through their scholarships and their mentorship program. Rae Ann has authored 2 6-word lesson books, one on overcoming adversity and the other on growth mindset. Her passion is igniting motivation within you to achieve better results, increase sales and success in your industry, and have more fulfillment in your personal life. And I have to give a shout out to Rae Ann while she's here. I'm going to try not to tear up here because Rae Ann has been such an inspiration to me. She is such a beautiful woman. And, you know, I'm sure that most of you listening to the show have something inside you that wants to give back to your community, and you have a why behind what you're doing. And I'm just really blessed to have Rae Ann in my life, call her a friend, be a part of her networking organization, which was all inspired about getting powerful women together that have a message and have a passion behind their message to inspire each other. And through that process, to be able to contribute to young girls that have had tragedies that they've gone through in their life, and to help them with their education process. Now, not only that in raising funds for these women, but also through the process of them being sponsored for their college education. Rae Ann personally, and being a successful business person, walks through this process with them, holding their hands. And so I've had so much thought and conversation, myself and Rae Ann, and how I'm continuing to grow my program to where I can bring into that how I can help a community. And so anyways, Rae Ann, I just love you so much and admire everything that you're doing. And I feel blessed to be a part of your life. So thank you for being here today.
That really means a lot. And you, with your Tragedy to Triumph message in your book, if you haven't purchased her book, she actually gives it away a lot.
Yeah.
It's very valuable information, and it's very inspirational. So thank you.
Thank you, Rae Ann. And on that note, if you want a copy of my complimentary copy, just call the show. So Rae Ann, let's start out with, what are forward principles?
So forward principles, they're practical tools and actionable steps to actually get better results in your life. And it's about moving forward in a positive way.
Yeah.
And so it's just practical ways that you can do that. It really applies to anyone who has goals. So if it is about your money or financial situation, it could be a salesperson, someone just trying to improve their personal life or their home life. Really anything that you're setting out to do, these are practical ways to get that done. Universal principles that anyone can use.
Love that.
Rae Ann, I love that forward principles. The wording of that is so awesome. How did you come up with that idea with forward principles?
So it actually, what Tina was mentioning with my mentoring these young women, that's how I came up with it. These young women overcoming a lot of obstacles, they're really an inspiration. But as I worked with them, I was teaching them principles to build a strong foundation in their life, and then ways that they could move forward. And I thought, forward principles. There you go. There you have it. So I decided to name it Forward Principles. And then I wrote 2 books, as you mentioned, one on overcoming the abuse and adversity, and another one now that I'm focusing on is growth mindset. So both have some similarities because it's about forward principles, but
Yeah.
That's how I came up
And
with
you know,
it.
so when you're thinking about the name of your company or your program or your product, if it's something that you have created and designed yourself, really think about that name, because the name should have a connection to it. It should have an aha moment. It should be connected to something that you're doing that's inspired through the process, because that's when you really can connect to the name of your company. And so I want to shout that out. Rae Ann also is I didn't mention, she's had her own adversities that she's gone through, abuse in her own life. And so for a shout out to those people that have that, you really can move forward past that and to really make a difference in the world. And that's the message that Rae Ann shares. So Rae Ann, when moving forward and setting goals, how does your brain help you achieve those goals?
So the great news is that a lot of times people think that their brain is just there and it's fixed and it's always going to be the same. It's not. It is not static. It is actually adaptable. And it changes by us practicing something over and over, which actually strengthens the connections of neurons over time. So I just think it's really cool that we can actually reset the neural pathways and learn how to reset the neural pathways in our brain. But there's two parts of our brain that actually helps us with our goal setting and getting better results, and it's the cerebellum and the prefrontal cortex. So the cerebellum actually works really, really fast, and it seeks efficiency, and it wants to protect us, and it's actually where we form our habits. And because it works so fast, you can think about like when you're going to walk, you don't have to go, I need to put one foot in front of the other, right? Because it's a learned behavior over time, and you have that habit, and it just goes really quickly. And then the prefrontal cortex is actually future focused, and it's where we actually plan and set our goals. So it's important to know those two things. Another thing that's important to know is that our brain can go into fight or flight. And what that means is when we're going to attempt something new, our brain is trying to be efficient and protect us, and it will say, hey, we've never done this before, abort, abort, abort. And even though that's not what we really want to do, sometimes we just naturally go with that. And we can actually mistake that into meaning something so much more than just the fear and the anxiety of that moment. We have to push through that, and I teach people how to do that. So having that understanding ahead of time helps us forge ahead. Not knowing it can mean we mistake the fear and doubt as meaning more, which can halt our learning and progression. So we can rethink our thoughts and create new mindsets that really propel us for our progress and propel us forward.
Yeah, and I want to take a step back to what you said about the brain is constantly growing and improving and strengthening. And not only is it, but it must to reach the strength that it needs to, but it can't do it without your participation, not to the fullest ability that it has. So in really being able to lock in that strength, you have to have that mindset, and that mindset is all about embracing change through the process.
Absolutely.
Rae Ann, you also said something interesting about rethink your thoughts. So, I mean, a lot of people just don't know how to do that. So how do you start rethinking those thoughts when they start coming up?
So this is where the magnetism of mind shifts comes in with our growth mindset. It's really about our inner dialogue. And it's we sometimes mistake the stories in our head to be facts. And so the majority of my work with people is separating facts from emotions and the situation of it. So then we can step away from it and look at it objectively. And I help people do that. They just learn to focus their thoughts on different things. And create better feelings, which actually ends up creating better results. And what that is the result cycle. And I created it, and it's helped me to be laser focused on my coaching. It's when we're more intentional with our thinking that we can better identify the thoughts that aren't serving us well. And then the ones that really are creating the outcome that we want. So we begin to become more centered, confident, at ease, and we come across better to others. And that's that magnetism that when we're at ease and we're not trying to create a story that we're not connecting. Sometimes we can get worried about that. If you stay centered and shut down that story, it's really not your fault. Somewhere along the line, your habit became to think that way. So you have to catch it, reframe it, think of something different, think of all of the great things you're offering that person or whatever the situation is. But it's really important to catch the thought, stop it, and then replace it.
So, Rae Ann, let's talk a little bit more about result cycle and what that is. And, I've really anything great and of magnetism in life doesn't happen quickly. And I would imagine with the result cycle, that doesn't happen quickly either. Is that correct?
It's not a quick fix, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But the result cycle, it is kind of what I've already mentioned, and I put it together from all my life coaching training, from my cognitive behavior training, and then also my experience in the behavioral health field. It's an amazing tool that helps us to zero in on any given situation. I listen to people's story and whatever's bothering them, and then we start to dissect it. So the actual result cycle is focused thoughts influence our decisions and feelings, which propel us into action and give us our results. And so by, again, providing that objective view, we can actually focus in. And it takes effort because we are creatures of habit, and there's multiple things that affect our thought processes as far as, holding on to past negative experiences or some of those things that created stories in our mind. The brain goes in and it starts to look for evidences that those are real. Mm-hmm. So we got to be careful about those stories that we're telling ourselves, that inner dialogue. And the result cycle, when we examine it together, and it's really important to have an objective person outside, a coach or a counselor, someone that you respect, and will keep it private. But having that objective view can get you outside of your mind and help you to rethink things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable how, and I love how you reference stories, because that's to keep you normal. As bad as things can be in life, you generate this story, and it can be attached to many different circumstances in your life to make it normal, because that's all your brain wants to do to keep you alive, right? Is to keep that normal. It's that Maslow's hierarchy of thinking. And once you go up or even down, even financially or anything else, now that's been affected. You got to come up with a story, so that's your new normal,
and the
right?
more you tell the story, the worse it gets.
Yeah, the worse it gets, and you can continue that story.
Or the more you tell a good story, the better it gets.
Yeah. And sometimes it becomes a victim mode where you're putting everyone else to blame for what's happening because of that.
Yeah.
I love that, because, the start of that is taking responsibility for yourself and your actions, and then owning that as this is me, not anything externally, and now you can go from that point forward, right?
Yes, exactly.
So what about intentional thinking? Is everybody affected by intentional thinking?
And I think we all know that it is true that we are all affected by it, but sometimes we aren't intentional about our thoughts. And the truth is, every single one of us is affected by it. Anything that you've gone out and done and got a result from, it started with a thought. We don't just go and perform things without first thinking of it. Yeah. And again, our cerebellum in particular works really fast. So we're doing what we are used to. And so what we have to remind ourselves is that that's not working for us.
Yes.
And then also to have that, to be intentional about the thought that we're having, and belief. That intentional thinking increases our belief in ourselves. And I love what Henry Ford said, if you think you can or can't, you're right.
You're right.
I know it's a famous quote. It's an old quote, but it just really fits because it is so true.
So it's so true.
If we see it that way, if we think about it that way, that's the way it's going to be.
Yes.
And we're going to believe it, good or bad.
Yes. So, Rae Ann, we have less than, that was hard to say, a minute before I have to take us to commercials. So really quickly, fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. How do you go from a fixed mindset into what you need to be which is a growth mindset? Okay.
And first, kind of like Keaton was saying, you first have to take responsibility for it and recognize it. And sometimes we're in denial. So you've got to really be open to it so you can recognize it. Second, it's having the courage to change. And then finally, it's taking the continued effort to change those thoughts that aren't serving us well. Become someone who loves to evolve, to change, and loves a challenge. Someone who's resilient, takes accountability, and wants to change to a more positive outlook on life, people, and situations. It takes continual effort. It's using mind shifts and intentional thinking to really challenge the idea that popped in your head. And working with the results cycle and that growth mindset can really help you do that.
Yeah, and so for more, Rae Ann, thank you so much for being here with us. It's just a pleasure, and again, I just love you so much. To connect with
love
Rae
is
Ann,
mutual.
and thank you. To connect with Rae Ann and know a little bit about more how she can help you, please call the show at 1-855-400-1150 or go online at themoneyhour.com. Coming up next on the Money Hour, how creativity can improve your relationship with money. Marcel Allen of Dreamosity, right here at 1150 AM KKNW. After this short break.
Do you find yourself constantly frustrated with finances? Do you even know the data behind your dreams? Would you like to experience financial joy? Marcel Allen with Dreamosity supports remarkable leaders to navigate and win on social media. Marcel motivates her clients to leverage video with confidence. Marcel has helped clients get their first 100 fans and their first 100,000 fans. She's been in the digital marketing game for 10 years and can help you stay remarkable online. Marcel and Dreamosity can help you experience financial joy.
Hi, this is Marcel with Dreamosity. I want to help you discover what financial joy looks like. Visit dreamosity.com to learn more. DREAMOSITY or text 360-420-9966.
You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, and co-host Keelan Harvey on Alternative Talk AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage experts Tina Mitchell and Keelan Harvey.
Welcome back to the Money Hour on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, July 13th show. I am your host, Tina Mitchell.
And I'm your co-host, Keelan Harvey.
Your local mortgage experts. We are here to help you build a strong financial blueprint 1 week and one show at a time. If you're hearing our show at a different time of day, you are listening to rebroadcast, but we're here to help you or connect you with the guests that we have on the show. Please call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And handpicked all of our guests, as we do each week, but we got 3 women and a Keelan today.
And a
Keelan. I love that. And another very special person with a very special message. And I just think it's a special show because I have so much respect for anyone that's in the coaching space and all of the effort that they're putting to make a difference. And so our next guest is Marcel Allen of Dreamosity. Sounds so beautiful, Dreamosity. How creativity can improve your relationship with money. Marcel, thank you for coming back into studio again.
Yeah, of course. So happy to be welcome back. Thank you.
A little bit about Marcel. Marcel Allen is the author of Financial Joy, a local social media manager and laughter coach. She motivates authors, artists, and achievers to get curious and confident about their financial situation while leveraging social media to grow their business. Money and laughter. Love it. She supports others in understanding the pattern of their sales system, marketing efforts, and financial results. She helps clients with marketing, advertising, and is the creative force behind her consulting agency, Dreamosity. Marcel is also the co-owner of Laugh Tech, where she trains folks to be more memorable and humorous when developing content for their online campaigns. She wants everyone to realize that the minute you start to use video, you now entered the entertainment industry. So put some laughter in that.
Yeah, I feel like I need to say a joke right now or something.
No pressure.
I guess that was my joke. Marcel, I want to get your
That was funny.
that was good. The ever-evolving creature of social media. I'd love to get your insight about that and with creativity and money. Where are we at right now? What's the trends? Give me an update on this.
Yeah, so storytelling is always amazing and valuable, but what I'm seeing now is visual storytelling. So with the rise of Facebook stories and Instagram stories, the ability to do really thorough explanations, to be more of an entertainer, but to have a humble approach to teaching where you do a lot of show and tell and you actually explain with visuals. So not just the talking head, but the showing the document, showing the process, showing the subject and the location, right? So for our last guest here, for her to show and tell of that results circle will help her drive forward so people can visually see and hear what she's talking about.
So are you talking like the show and tell with the traditional PowerPoint massive and getting up on those slides, or give us an example of what that, like for me, I do my keynote Tragedy to Triumph, where I share my story, and I have pictures of my family that are part of my story. But what else can I do to take it to the next level?
Yeah. So from a social media perspective, not just your presentation, because you'll probably have somebody broadcast that live for you, but behind the day-to-day of Tina Mitchell, right? Show us where you're at. Show us who you're with. Show us the documents you're using. Explain things, right? So sometimes we get stuck in this talking head thing where we just talk and I have a camera on me right now, but it's like if I could show and
Because
tell
that's our behind the scenes of the
and
Money Hour, which is good, right?
something, people like to see something because our attention spans are so short. And if they don't resonate in those first 3 seconds, they're gone. So if you have visuals that really support that story, you're going to do a lot better with your online campaigns.
Yeah, love that. How are millennials embracing video to learn and teach complex topics?
Yeah,
Marcel?
so as a millennial, I can speak from experience here, but we are resourceful creatures. We're creative, and we want to understand what we don't know. And so we are going to whatever platform we choose to learn, to study, to find out. And I used to do a lot of searching on Google or YouTube, and now I'm searching on Instagram, right? So the platforms are shifting, but people are very eager to learn things about budgeting, around how to get their first home, how to refinance, right? They're going online to learn as much as they can before they make a big decision. And they're actually becoming experts now. Once they've gone through the process, they will turn around real quick and teach what they know. So they are evolving quickly. So I encourage people to embrace that.
This makes me think of because I use it all the time, your mortgage triangle software. When we show people loan options side by side, that's an extremely powerful tool, because if I was just to spout that out at somebody, they'd have absolutely no idea what I was talking about because we're speaking mortgage gibberish.
Exactly. And it's numbers. Numbers make it even worse. So if you can put those numbers in a visual place that actually highlights the most important numbers, but still gives them all the details behind that they can look at if they want to. Yeah.
And that gives them the
Thanks
confidence.
for the shout out.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Loan officers that are listening, Mortgage Triangle software, it's the best software on the market.
My clients literally, after it gives them the confidence to go out there and put in offers because they understand it, right? With a visual, as Marcel is saying, which is our show and tell. So how can other professionals get their ideas out faster, and what tips would you have for those leveraging video?
Okay, so if everybody in the studio picks up their iPhone or their smartphone, and if you were to go to shoot a selfie video, right? If you pick up your phone and you do this selfie video and you're talking about, here you are, here's what you're doing, then flip that around and show what you're doing, show the agenda, show the document, show the cool thing. And then again, with those micro stories, we can flip back and forth from here's me, here's my subject, here's me, right? So if you go back and forth, it keeps people engaged. Because if I've got 10 minutes of one talking head, it's a little bit hard to engage sometimes. So if you go back and forth when you're doing your micro stories.
That's scary, Keelan.
I'm doing it right now. She's giving us a visual as we speak.
And what it's doing is it's limiting our need to do video editing. So a lot of the post-production time can be cut out when we do self-editing, when we kind of plan the visuals, whether it's the person or the subject we're showing. It can actually, we're editing as we go, which is kind of this cool, crazy trend where people are just, everyone's a filmmaker, it seems like.
That's so cool.
Marcel and Victoria will make note of this, our behind-the-scenes videographer. Is we need to get you into Power Hour Lunch and Learn with all of the real estate agents, because they, especially with agents, because they're all about creating story and the relationship around the story of homeownership. So this could be really powerful message. So we'll get you on the calendar for 2020. All right, so let's shift a little bit. Is there a great example of a financial expert using creativity well?
Yeah, so check out the Budget Mom on Instagram. She's also on
Budget
YouTube.
Mom.
She's a young millennial who had like $88,000 of credit card debt and showed her story in social media of how she dug out of that hole. And it was show and tell. It wasn't just talk, it was show. And she uses this great method with cash envelopes and just budgeting. She made budgeting fun with highlighters and got really creative with it. And so I actually used to hate budgeting. I thought it was dumb and stupid. I didn't really like it. And now I'm like, ooh, this is fun. I like it. Right? So anytime you can help your client transform their experience, and like Rae Ann was saying earlier with our mindset, if we can go from that kind of, I can't do this, to I'm capable, right? If you can extend that empowerment to your audience, you win.
And also on that, as a reminder, is with Budget Mom, I would imagine that Budget Mom targets strategically her perfect audience that are most likely going to connect with her, and that's other mothers. That, so I just think that it's so great. I think we're talking about just organically today about your message, the name of your company, what you're doing and who you're targeting, and critically important.
Marcel, was it Budget Mom that kind of flipped your beliefs on budgeting recently, or where did that stem from, and how do you get so much joy out of it?
Sure. So she was the solution, but my financial planner actually kind of called me out. She was like, Marcel, you wrote this book called Financial Joy, and you're kind of bashing budgeting. Like, something's wrong here. So I got called out, and I was open to my coach, this expert. And so I was like, well, I wonder if anybody's doing anything creative or thoughtful with budgeting, because I would like to learn again. My dad was a banker growing up, so I felt like we always had money around. But I've learned the difference between intentional earning, which is what financial joy is all about. How do we earn more? Where intentional spending is more the budgeting conversation.
Yeah.
And so getting financially curious, like, well, how could I do that? Because with my own home buying journey, like, trying to save, I was noticing, wow, I'm making more, but I'm not saving more. What's wrong here? Right.
Yes.
So the Budget Mom, now I understand why, because I'm like, obvious reasons, but but now it's fun, and I'm super excited because I'm back on track for that home buying journey, which, with this idea of home ownership, it's like, if you can't save enough, then budgeting is a great way to get there.
Yeah. Well, and it's so true. If you're budgeting, people that budget have more money. Just the idea of watching what you're spending, not using credit cards, instead paying cash, that definitely there's so many tips in that process.
Yep.
So, Marcel, what about visual learners? Why do they need to see things? When talking about myself as well, you see things so many times, and then finally through that process, it connects with you.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying about the visual storytelling. Is I'm one of those visual learners. I can't just hear it once and be done. Like, my brain's not that quick.
I don't know anybody's that is.
Yeah, but anytime you can repeat, rephrase, repurpose, help people thoroughly understand, what you're talking about, you're going to have a better conversion rate if you can actually get them to buy in fully, join your community, and just follow your process. And that's something really important for any expert to, keep the attention, but know that you're teaching to visual learners, audio digital learners, right? We're all different. But for me, I didn't really understand a topic until I could teach it. So once I could teach something, then I got, there's like a level of expertise or mastery even.
Yeah.
So if you're frustrated with something, set a challenge to see if you can learn to teach other people how to do that thing.
Yes. Yeah.
I love it. So ultimately, Marcel, the goal is financial joy. So how does setting up like a financial ritual, how does that help you to ultimately achieve that financial joy that everybody's seeking?
Yeah, so this is this concept that I've thought about after I wrote the book, but in the book I talk about doodling the data. But how often do we do that? Is it important to do it weekly or monthly or just annually? And to me, it goes from, if I'm going to be a victor of my finances, if I'm going to be aware and in control, I need to pay attention, right?
Yes.
So how do I do that and make it fun, right? Whether it's I go somewhere pretty for the day to relook at the numbers, or if I have a nice glass of wine or have friends over. But what is that ritual to get me to pay attention? And a lot of people are doing it not enough, and it becomes a risk for them. So
Yeah.
We have this. We have a saying for that. It's income creep, right? The more you make,
yes,
income creep. That's what you're hitting.
It.
That's the
okay.
That's the big devil nobody wants to stare at, because then they have to accept their standard of living, and they don't want to do that. They'd rather live out of their means, which ultimately hinders their financial joy.
Yeah, and I think if you stay attached to what your financial joy looks like, and you're always wanting for something, then you're less apt to spend because you're always saving for something. So it's a great tip as well. So as we're wrapping up our time here, Marcel, let's wrap up with awareness. And is awareness enough when setting your financial ritual?
I think it's the beginning of it, right? You want to be aware, but unfortunately, like with financial abuse, or you were saying before, when people are deceptive and they're not very forthright with their information, if you want to protect yourself and your assets, you need to be more than aware, but you need to be on top of it so you know what's going on with all your financial accounts. And So it's important to be aware of it, but also to build your team. That was the final thought, is build a team of experts. Call into a mortgage expert if you don't know what that thing in the mail is. Work with a coach if you're struggling with your mindset around earning. Work with a budgeter or a financial planner if you don't, if you're having what you call income creep.
Income creep.
Yeah,
Yep.
income
Got some
creep.
income creep problems. Yeah.
And then if you want to leverage your time on social media, call me.
Yes.
Right?
Love it.
I love that. Marcel, thank you so much for coming back in studio. It was a real pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you so much.
And for more information to get connected with Marcel, call the show at 1-855-400-1150 or go online at themoneyhour.com. Coming up next on The Money Hour, are you ready to be in a relationship? Dee Gupa of D Coaching, right here at 1150 a.m. KKNW after this short break.
Are you a tech professional who wants to get your voice heard in meetings and events? Are you tired of being invisible or of people talking over you? Do you believe you have the talent to make more impact at work but don't know how or where to begin? Are you living on autopilot, not knowing where your time has gone? Or do you want to make the best use of your time on this planet? To have a powerful voice in this world, you need to build up your communication skills and courage step by step. To live your life in a powerful way, you need to have crystal clear goals and work through problems along the way until you achieve those goals. Dee Gupta of D Coaching is an expert at unleashing your personal power and will coach you through a simple and easy to follow process that will build up your skills and courage. Dee is passionate about firing people up to follow their dreams by walking them through her effective proprietary process of goal setting and follow through.
This is Dee from D Coaching. To learn more about me, visit my website at speakpowerfullycoaching.com and follow the links to connect with me on social media.
You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, and co-host Keelan Harvey on Alternative Talk AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage experts Tina Mitchell and Keelan Harvey.
Welcome back to The Money Hour on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, July 13th show. I am your host, Tina Mitchell.
And I'm your co-host, Keelan Harvey.
Your local mortgage experts. We bring into studio each week the best of the best in all areas regarding your financing. And it's to help you in today's economy. If you're hearing our show at a different time of day, you are listening to a rebroadcast, but we're here to answer any questions or connect you with the guests that we have on the show today. Please call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. In studio right now, Dee Gupta of D Coaching. Are you ready to be in a relationship? Dee, thank you so much. You come in and visit us like on a quarterly basis, and it's always fun to hear your new topic that you're bringing in. And so thank you. It's great to see you again.
Thank you for having me over.
Yes, a little bit about Dee. Dee is a part-time coach and full-time rental property business owner who has done extensive study on emotional growth. Her perspective is that you are where you are choosing to be in life. Your financial status, the quality of your life that you live, and the relationships with friends and family or your significant other, everything is either where you want it to be or where your belief level is of where you want that to be. The stage of personal growth you are at in each area of your life determines on where you are at in that area. You cannot make more money than you believe that you can make. You cannot have a better relationship than you believe you're capable of having, and your belief in your own worthiness in each area of your life sets the tone for where you are. And Dee helps break those ceilings. So true.
So true. Dee, are you in a relationship? That's bringing a lot of people, perking a lot of ears out there. I know even some of my friends probably want the answer to that question. Who are you specifically talking about, and who's going to benefit from that specific topic?
So this topic is meant for anybody who is afraid of being in a relationship or who has this belief system that I am not ready to be in a relationship right now because I need to work on myself first. This topic is going to specifically address those people.
Perfect. So Dee, what do you say to people who say that they are not ready to be in a relationship?
What I would say is, what is a relationship? A relationship is any one human being relating to any other human being or like a bunch of other human beings. So how do you learn how to ride a bike? It's by actually riding a bike. You cannot read about riding a bike and learn how to do it. How do you learn how to swim? You actually jump in the pool. You cannot watch videos to learn how to swim. How do you learn how to be in a relationship? You jump in and have a relationship. You cannot learn about relationships by working on yourself or being alone. The only way you're going to be able to learn how to deal with other people is by actually being with other people and working through those issues.
Yeah, and so how scary that is if you really think about the words that you're using. I'm not ready to be in a relationship, or I don't want to be in a relationship, and how many times you might repeat that through the process with loved ones or friends that you're talking to, and it really is not meaning that you don't want to have relationships with anybody. You don't want to be in a serious relationship with that serious commitment, but what you're actually putting out there in the universe and attaching to your brain that's there to protect you, which we've talked with both of our coaches prior to Dee, is that you don't want to be in relationships. And so such a responsibility to ourselves and how we communicate and talk to ourselves, and we voice out.
So I have a lot of friends, and I reference my friends in this conversation because me and Angela have been together for like 10 years, so I have no idea. But for my friends, because they confide in me. We're boys. It's what we do. They always like, it's important to kind of work on myself, right? And there's never like a specific timeline for that. It's just kind of like a couple of years later, nope, I'm still working working on myself. Like, is there some importance to that? What is your response into somebody that's working on themselves?
It is absolutely crucial to work on ourselves. Of course, we're constantly working on ourselves. That does not mean in any way that you cannot be in a relationship with someone else, because like you said, it's a never-ending process, and you're going to be working on yourself for the rest of your life if you're growth-minded. Then having a relationship can be with someone who is at a similar level as you are in your personal growth. So it is going to be harder for you to find somebody who is way above you in the personal development world to relate to, but you will be able to find people at your level, and together you will be able to grow if you so choose.
Yeah, and that's what, Sergio, I think you need to have a mentor in your life that is way ahead that you want to get to, but you also have to have that camaraderie, and that's a peer that's at a close level than you. Right. And you also want to be contributing and helping, but you've got to be really careful in how far level down that you go, because you have to be high enough yourself and confidence enough in the message that you have for yourself that you're not going to get taken down by those people. Right. Does that make sense, Dee?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so let's talk about failing multiple times. What do you do then?
So some people have a mental block that they've been married multiple times, 3 times, 4 times, and they're like, I've done this many times, I can't do this again. Or some people are like, I've been in many relationships over my life and I've never been married because they've all failed. Or I have been married plus been in a relationship and plus been in long relationships and it's just not worked. So what do I do then? And the response that I have for something like that is, when we start off by learning math in the beginning, we start off by learning how to write numbers, and then we learn how to add, and then we learn how to do, trigonometry or whatever.
I never really learned that, but that's okay.
If you choose. So it is the same with relationships. It's possible that somebody might figure it out from college and be married for the rest of their lives already. Many times it's not that easy for us, and we need to learn different levels and try and fail and try and fail and keep going at it so that we can build ourselves up so that eventually we find whatever it is we're looking for.
Yeah, it's an important part of the process. You're taking a little step back so that you can move a step further, but a little step further is bigger than the step back. Yeah, You've got to fail through the process to get there.
Right.
Well, and I can speak to, even when you're there, I mean, it's not going to be perfect. It never is. You're going to have disagreements, and you have to work through that too. And then you learn from that, right? And you grow. And so there's just no perfect way to do it besides just have the right intention and do it, right?
Yes. Well, like our first coach, Rae Ann, talks about, it's important for the growth process. The brain, you're always improving and always growing. And when you stop improving and stop growing, you stop living. And,
Absolutely.
So pretty sad place to be.
Love it. So what about knowing that you have the right partner, Dee? I know everybody probably at some point in their mind, when you come in those tough times, do I have this right partner? What is the perfect partner?
So there is this book called Principles by Ray Dalio that I'm reading. And plus I've been hearing other things as well. So in the financial world, the way you make investments is you measure the risk to reward ratio. So if the risk is lower and the reward is higher, then you jump in. So most of the really good investors fail more often than they succeed, sometimes many more times than they succeed. But Ray Dalio is a billionaire, and that is because he measures the risk to reward. And if the risk to reward is lower, even though he's failing way more times, the successes make him much richer.
Yeah.
So I would use the same principles with relationships as well. You check the risk to reward, and you guess at it. You're not going to be perfect at it. This is just like investments. Emotions are way more complicated than investments. And you guess at it, and you make those decisions, and you jump in. And the more you try, the more you're going to be able to learn that this is a risk, or this is a bigger risk than I thought it was, or this is a bigger reward than I thought it was. And you're going to be able to make those. So you don't know if the person is the right one. You just, you experiment, you explore, you learn along the way.
And that's really great advice, Dee. And I love that, because I've never thought about that in a relationship scenario. I mean, we hear about your pros and cons. Make the list of what's important to you and things that you need to have. And so I love that in this. And I would take it a step further and make sure that you're actually kind of looking at that at least 3 times and seeing if you can take from one thing that you write down and expand from that over. And once you've gone through that a few times, if you can't come up with something else, then you've pretty much nailed it. But yeah, that's a great advice. So are there, or what scenarios, because of course there are some scenarios, what scenarios would be that someone should not be in a relationship, a close relationship with like a significant other right now at all?
Yeah, there would definitely be some scenarios like that. So we make conscious choices, like the previous guests spoke about. We're making conscious choices all the time about what we want. And if we're coming not from a place of fear of, I don't want to be in a relationship because I'm going to be hurt, but instead we're coming from a place of, I don't want to be in a relationship because I want to focus on my career, and right now I want to be at the next promotion level. I want to start my business, and I want to get my business to a stable position before I have a relationship. Or I have a sick family member that I need to take care of. Or there could be many other reasons. And if we're consciously choosing to focus on other things in our lives, then of course it's perfectly okay. What I am talking about is more for people who are saying, I need to work on myself, and that's why I need to not be in a relationship, because to me that feels like a cop-out.
Yes, yeah.
What's beautiful, though, is when you have a partner that supports you a lot. Like, shout out to Angela, my other half. She's
Angie
amazing.
Dave.
And there you go. They enhance me as a person in my career. So it can work that way, too. So maybe you need to jump in and find a partner that really appreciates you and pushes you to be a better version of yourself as well.
There you go.
Right? Look at that.
Oh, you're doing so good today.
I don't know what it is. Something got into me today.
It's because we're surrounded around coaches. So
I
that's,
guess so.
Can't help but be inspired.
I'm inspired. So what advice, Dee, would you give someone who is afraid of being in a relationship?
Well, it is scary to be in a relationship. It is full of rejections from the first moment on. Is the person going to swipe left or swipe right? Or is the person actually going to meet me? Is the person, once you're in the relationship, is the person going to meet my needs, or is the person going to reject? It is full of rejection and full of scary things. But what I would say is, it is absolutely worth it. Like you said, your wife supports you with everything that you do, and all the joys you feel, all the wins you have, feel almost meaningless unless you can have somebody to share it with in a meaningful way. So take one step at a time and just allow yourself to jump in.
Yeah,
Love
and
it.
sitting here as your host, 23 years of marriage, thank gosh, I don't have to swipe right and swipe left. But I do want to give advice as we wrap up our time here with our last guest when it comes to relationships. I always say to come from a place of love, accountability, and acceptance. Love really means that you come a place, and this doesn't matter what relationship. It could be a coworker, it could be your spouse, it could be a sibling, a parent. Come from a place of genuine love, that person. And then acceptance is to accept that person for whoever they are. Now, we're void, or you have to take out an abusive situation. That's a whole nother conversation. But unless it's something that you're in danger, accept them and that situation for whatever it is in totalness, that you can come from the best place. And then accountability, and that's the biggest one. The accountability is for you. How are you going to react in this second to this moment in something that is not going the way that you want to go when it has to do in a relationship? And I tell you, it's a magical thing, and we would not be married for 23 years. I would not be together with my husband right now if I couldn't have figured out to come from a place of love and acceptance and accountability. So again, I offered a complimentary copy of my book that's in there. If you want it, call the show at 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com, and I'd love to give you a copy. Dee, thank you again for coming in here. It's always a pleasure to have you. And again, it was just a really special show with, I got to give the shout out one more time, 3 women and a Keelan. That could be a show on its own. 3 women. Well, actually, it's not 3 women and a Keelan. It's 4 women and a Keelan. I forgot to count myself. We've got 4 women and a Keelan. So
5,
that is
Victoria, 5.
Well, Victoria behind the scenes. Yeah.
Got you,
we're
Victoria,
just,
don't worry.
well, we've got 2 guys. Gary's in here. Gary is actually our engineer, is telling us we need to wrap it up now. This is your host, Tina Mitchell.
And your co-host, Keelan Harvey.
Your local mortgage experts right here on 1150 AM KKNW. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll be here same time, same place next weekend.
Tina Mitchell, MLO 145420, and Keelan Harvey, MLO 1330075, are licensed loan originators with Gateway Mortgage Group LLC and MLS 7233. The views expressed by the speakers on the preceding program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Gateway Mortgage Group LLC, nor are they necessarily endorsed by Gateway Mortgage Group LLC.